Hey y'all, it's my review for the Real Housewives of Atlanta Season 15 Reunion Part 1. I can't believe there's only 2 parts, but I ain't complaining. I'm just really surprised because we have not had a 2-part reunion of Atlanta, I want to say, since Season 3 or at least in a decade. So this franchise is definitely in trouble. I saw the uncensored version on Peacock and I felt like there wasn't that much of a difference, so I'm just reviewing the one that came on Bravo. I mean, it is fun to hear them curse or whatever, but other than that, same difference. We see that they filmed this reunion July 27th, pretty much like a month and some change or so. I already said my thoughts on the ladies' apparel. I do not like it collectively at all. Like, there's no one person who I feel like, damn, they knocked it out the park. I'm also not a fan of the background, what they did to the set. It looks like this needs to be like the background for the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, not Atlanta. They're basing it off the mental retreat that they went to in Portugal, but it just doesn't go. And then the blue added to that, it's jarring from my eyes. One more thing I noticed before we get into the reunion is the ladies that are closest to Andy are Drew and Sheree. Do y'all agree with this? I would say they needed to divvy up the girls by the teams that they divide themselves into. So we knew that Sheree and Marlo and Sonya were going to be on one side together. So I'm not really surprised with Sheree being on the other side. And then on the other side with Drew, Kandi, and Kenya, I think the only reason Drew's next to Andy is because the divorce happened last minute. Otherwise, I think it would have been Kandi. I'm actually kind of confused why Kenya is in the middle. Like, she should be on the end. But I'm guessing because she's the shade assassin and the fan favorite, they won't let her be on the end. I also can see technically, like, if you sit closest to Andy, that means you have the most to answer for at the reunion. So as Andy's greeting the ladies, he starts with Sheree, and I still think that Andy should stop asking the women, like, what all they've gotten done. But he asked Sheree, like she looks a little different in her face, obviously. And you know Sheree be lying. She said something was wrong with her nasal passages, so when they had to do, like, work on it, she was like, oh, why don't I just get a nose job then? Sure, Jan. He gets to Marlo, who also clearly has gotten something done. She looks thinner in the face, and she doesn't beat around the bush. She says she got Ozempic as well, like Dolores, like Kyle Richards, like Erica Jane, even though she didn't admit it. That chick from OC, Emily. Like, it's countless. All the housewives are doing Ozempic. So the first reel is dedicated to Sheree, more so for the sip and see party that she did for her granddaughter. First question she has is, with the whole Bob revealing his daughter. She's given the same answer, saying she didn't know, she really didn't care, moving on. Andy then asked Kandi about something she said on Speak On It, which, by the way, she's going to be answering for a lot of things she said on Speak On It. Because most of the things she says is behind-the-scenes tea and shade against her cast members. But the shade for this particular instance was when she had Drew on the line and said that a recent picture of Sheree, she looked like Drew, which she did. Sheree responds by telling Drew that she would have been offended if she heard that because she thinks in this photo, she looks terrible. So she tells Drew, if you think you look like me at my worst, that's on you. Why are we talking about Mortel's penis? Why? I'm guessing she's giving us an update. They weren't really dating, but she tells Andy that she pulled back because of all the mess that he was in. And y'all probably know the mess more than I do because I don't watch that Carlos King show. I'm not interested. There was a lot of noise, Andy. Really, Sheree? You didn't think there was a lot of noise when you were pretend dating him? And while we're still on the topic of Martell, King is then asked about why did you tell Sheree about the DM? Why didn't you tell her about it sooner? Her excuse is she waited till she found out that they were actually dating because in the beginning she just thought they were messing around and didn't think it was important. So then Andy puts the attention on Kenya for a bit and says, please tell me that your divorce is finalized. She said no. Like, Mark, as we saw in the headlines, recently filed her to be in contempt or something, and now he's using the footage where Marlo's kicking at her door as Kenya putting Brooklyn in danger, which is ridiculous. She then tells Marlo that because you were involved in that incident, you now have to appear in court. And she goes behind her and allegedly has a subpoena for Marlo to appear in her divorce court proceedings. Now, This was kind of a gag, but then Andy was like, oh, wait a minute, this is blank. And Kenya's like, oh, I must have given the wrong one? Really? Kenya not prepared like that? You didn't look at it? Legal Eagles in the chat, let me know. Like, is Kenya even able to serve Marlo a subpoena? Doesn't it have to be like someone in the legal field or something, like a server? I don't know. So y'all educate me in the comments. It wasn't a complete fail because we saw on social media that she has a document with Marlo's name on it, but it would have been way more effective had she done it at the reunion. But now it seemed like it fell flat. Had it been filled out, it probably would have been a gag. Had it been filled out, it probably would have been a gag-worthy moment. As Kenya and Marlo are going back and forth, Kenya reveals that Marlo texted or called Mark at some point in 2021 because she subpoenaed his phone records. Now, Marlo, of course, denies it, but you know, Marlo's a liar, so I wouldn't put it past her. According to Kenya, she thinks Marlo contacted Mark to get dirt on her. Anywho, the hot seat goes back to Sheree, and Andy's asking her about this birthday party situation where Martell was asking everybody for their cash apps. She says that Martell was an invited guest. She did not expect him to pay the bill. But then Andy thinks that Sheree was going to pay the bill on her birthday. She's like, no, it's my birthday. Andy then tells her, you know, Sheree, you have a pretty interesting relationship with bills. The whole cast hollers. Like, that is shady as fuck, Andy. Why don't we go back to being a moderator? If I was Sheree, I would have felt some type of way. I don't care if you are the boss. Sheree's rebuttal to that remark is, well, I've never been sued. No one has took me to court. Didn't your car get repoed because of the lawyers that you couldn't pay? Your Aston Martin? I think that's documented too. Like, she has always had problems with paying stuff since she's been on the show. If she wasn't sued, I think it's a talent that she hasn't been for this long. I mean, she really is a scammer in every sense of the word. Sheree then tries to come for Kandi by mentioning the guy who sued her for allegedly stealing the idea of Old Lady Gang. If y'all don't remember Johnny, this situation was from season 9 where he enlisted Phaedra Parks as his lawyer against Kandi. Well, he tried to get her to represent him, but she was helping him out through the way. Kandi and Sheree are now coming for each other's businesses, and once Kandi brings up her fashion, Sheree goes behind her and gets some sort of evidence or receipts. The first receipt is allegedly from a third party Sheree worked with, who then paid the designer that designed most of the fashions that are not on Sheree's website. So once this preview came out, I think the actual designer said that he still has not been paid by Sheree. I'm sorry, but anyone who was scammed by Sheree in the past 5 years up until now, they deserve it because they already know Sheree's history and reputation with bills in Atlanta. Kandi then points out again that the fashions that were on the runway, they're still not on her website. Sheree says, so what? So what? That should tell me enough that if she don't give a fuck, then we shouldn't be giving a fuck about her fashions. But then Sheree goes after Kandi's business again and say, you need to mop those dirty ass floors at OLG. And, you know, we did see an Old Lady Gang that there was a little health code violations here and there regarding cleanliness of the restaurant. Let's just say that. They're then going back and forth on each other's appearance. Like, Kandi's going after her work that she had done. Sheree gets up and says, look at the body. Look at the body. It's Fix That Face, Fix That Body 2.0. She's telling Kandi, bitch, you can never. Sheree is on 10, but like they're both stuttering with their reads right now. Like usually it's just Sheree, but Kandi is getting a little tongue-tied too. Andy then gets up and is trying to motion Sheree to sit down. Like, why is Sheree getting up? I mean, she ain't never scared though. Like, she ain't scared of Kandi. But still, there's always an opportunity for things to go left. So I'm glad Andy's stepping ahead of it. Ooh, Kandi, you are a low down, dirty, nothing ass bitch? To Sheree? This is kind of like a read I would expect to Marlo. I thought she was talking to Marlo in the trailer, but she's talking to Sheree. Wow, a nothing ass bitch. I could see scamming ass bitch, but damn. Okay. They're still coming after each other's work done, and Andy's like, don't y'all go to the same person? Oh my God. Sheree. She's telling Kandi, you need to focus on your business. Kandi's like, I am. And Sheree's like, I can't tell. There's still more shootings at OLG. Damn, she brought the shootings. But that was kind of a weak read, Sheree, because Kandi is on top of it when it comes to her businesses. Sheree is not done yet, though. She reached behind her and she gets out pamphlets, like newsletters that she made. I think it's called She News, where most of it is dedicated to trashing Kandi's multiple businesses. Like, the time she took to invest in, well, you know what? I don't even think she made it. She got somebody else to make it. Did she pay him? No, of course not. Andy is so tickled and delighted by this. He even says that he's bringing it to BravoCon. Andy's like, you printed these? Kandi then yells, I wish she'd print some fashions. Okay, I'm tickled so far. They are yelling at each other back and forth. We see in the She newspaper that she's doing a side-by-side of Shein fashions and fashions that Kandi sells at tags. But Kandi's like, are you really comparing your business to mine? Which she has a good point. Sheree fails to realize, though, that Kandi never said that she was a fashion designer. Sheree did. They're really yelling at each other now. Andy's trying to maintain order by ringing this bell next to him. It's not working, so he gets up and hits the gong for them to shut up. We see Kenya interject, and she says, well, I'm not in this newspaper. Sheree, how come I wasn't in it? Sheree then tells her, because I couldn't really find a good picture of you. Ooh. Ooh, okay, Sheree. Sheree is on a roll right now. She actually came prepared. Imagine that. Finally. It took her ass long enough. She kind of earning that first chair, y'all. I'm still laughing at this She News. They let us know there's 8 pages, and the first 6 pages are dedicated to trashing Kandi's businesses, from OLG to Tag. It has headlines too. Kandi Burrs' restaurant failed again. Bad reviews everywhere. Correction, y'all. So the entire She newspaper is dedicated to Kandi, but the first 6 pages are dedicated to her restaurants. The last 2 dedicated to tags. I'm sorry, the newspaper thing, it was kind of cute. Even Kandi in the end, she's like, you know what, I'm gonna keep this. When all the hoopla calms down, Sheree has yet another surprise, this time for Drew. She finally gets her a She by Sheree bag. She then asks Kandi to open the bag, and inside the bag is the little clapper boards they use on sets for movies, just so she can say "and scene." Sheree is on one. I mean, even Kandi's like, who's been helping you with your reads this reunion? I agree. She came prepared, though. So the next reel is dedicated to Drew and her whole process of working with Kandi on this movie, The Pass. Her first question is, what was it like working with Kandi? And she says, better than she expected. But of course, Andy calls her out for that Lifetime comment she made. And she says she meant that she did this movie for under her asking fee, as a favor to Todd and Kandi. She did get paid over 10 grand. We don't know the exact price, but Drew says she does have a minimum ask through her union as an actress, I guess meaning that her rate is fair. They then talk about Drew's comment in her confessional about Kenya as an actress, that she hasn't been working since Pt.1, and surprisingly, I'm on Drew's side on this. Like, Kenya gets to shade everybody all day. But when somebody shades her, oh, I think you hit below the belt. You were talking about me as an actress. She was just shading you how you shaded her production. But, you know, Kenya tried to break it down to make it seem like what she did wasn't that bad. But she apologizes to Drew anyway. And now we're talking about the alleged kiss between Drew and LaToya in the regard of Kandi lying about it to promote her movie. Andy asked, what did you think about that? And of course, Kandi says she didn't like it because Drew called her a liar throughout her confessionals. Drew is still maintaining that she did not kiss LaToya and Kandi's lying. She even said Kandi-coded lies, which I think really set Kandi off, and calls her a lying ass hoe. Let me rewind that. Did she really say that? I rewinded and she definitely said, you lying ass hoe. That's that Decatur coming out. Again, Drew still is trying to say Kandi made it up, that everyone is just going along with it because Kandi has 10 million followers and people are intimidated by her. And Kandi is like, I saw you. She says Kenya saw her, Marlo saw her. Kandi has had enough of Drew. She points out that the way she's lying right now and the way she be complaining about Ralph gaslighting her, she thinks that Drew is gaslighting Ralph now, which definitely drops a lot of miles because Kandi is on Ralph's side now. I don't agree with what Kandi said, but what she should have said was, by the way you keep lying and you complain about Ralph gaslighting you, you're gaslighting us. So you're just as bad as Ralph. But Kandi doubled down and says she means it though. She said now she looks at her situation completely different now and says the lies, the lies, the lies. Andy tries to move on, but then Drew tells Kandi, we're good, right? We're still good. Girl, what? You just called her a liar, said she's spreading candy-coated lies, and you just heard her defend Ralph against you. No, she not fucking with you now. She tells Drew you are a liar and the truth is not in you. I'ma use that. And it looks like most of the ladies agree. Drew's still trying to maintain that she don't lie, and that in itself is a lie. Right after that, production rolled footage of 2 instances where she lied. Andy, can you stop asking Drew about her song? We do not care. So now Marlo's being called out by a question for being mean to Drew all season. I think going after her body. And I think Marlo makes the point that everyone has had work done on this stage. Her and Drew are going back and forth. I'm waiting for my nephew's dead, bitch! Like, we haven't gotten to that, but yeah, they're just going back and forth. The reads are a little weak between them. Andy is still asking Drew questions. He's asking her about the divorce proceedings. She says she can't mention that much, but we found out that Ralph will be coming out. Not the closet, but out to the stage to defend himself and tell his side of the story. Not these ladies telling Drew that maybe her and Ralph could work it out. Oh, things can change. Really? Did y'all see how he's been treating her since she's been on the show? Marlo then chimes in and says she thinks they can work it out because she then reveals that Ralph contacted her and she told him this, which is a gag to Drew. So now the friends of join the ladies. Enter Moneta, who's giving like an assistant principal going to a gala. Like, the bottom of it should have definitely been a dress. And then Courtney, who I actually don't mind the dress that she's wearing. It's just I don't love it. So, of course, the first question Courtney gets is how exactly is she related to Ralph? She says her dad's sister is married to Ralph's uncle. She says her dad's sister is married to Ralph's uncle, allegedly. And even then, I don't think they're blood related. I think they're cousins through marriage. And then there's the allegations that she's actually Ralph's mistress. But who knows? Drew and Courtney are going at it already. And then Drew, here she go with those whack-ass props. So she opens her bag and pulls a plum out and throws it in the other direction. It lands on Marlo's dress and she's like, don't be throwing shit over here. Like, I believe Marlo when she said that. But yeah, Drew, that fell flat. That was whack. Andy's trying to lighten the moment though, and he grabs the plum and starts to eat it. So now we're on Marlo's reel where they're highlighting her plotline kids, the Scotland guy she's dating, her work with foster care, when she slammed the door in Moneta's face. But still, we're not talking about, my nephew's dead, bitch! I guess we gotta wait till part 2 of the reunion. Afterwards, Marlo's updating Andy on her life. She says she's still with Scotland. They're dating. They've actually had sex. And I love how Andy asked her, have you guys consummated your relationship yet? I gotta hand it to him. That's a good way of asking, have y'all fucked yet? She also mentions that she's still trying to get her record expunged and Courtney's helping her, as well as Phaedra. And of course the cameraman immediately goes to Kandi's expression. The question then moves on to Kenya, who's asked, well, why does she have a problem with Marlo saying that she dated her man before when, she had no problem telling Sheree? And it just seems like Kenya's trying to minimize whatever happened between Marlo and Roy. She's like, oh, it's not a date. She probably took him to Taco Bell. It wasn't a date for Marlo because there wasn't cash left on the nightstand. Damn. Kenya got him with that one. Like, the whole room was like, ooh. Marlo just shrugs off that read, though. I'm guessing she's just heard it all about being called a prostitute. Kenya's then asked, why was Roy not hardly on the show? Did he just not want to be a part of it? Because it seemed like the only time he was on was when he was promoting his business, dropping off food to Kenya. I did think it was whack that Kenya tried to blame Roy not coming on the show on Marlo. Like, Marlo is really her scapegoat. She even has a hard time trying to tell that to Andy because the timeline not adding up when she said that Roy found out that Marlo was talking about him. I think it was easy to believe that he just didn't want to be on the show. It didn't feel real either. It felt just as real as Sheree and Marlo and Marlo and Scotland. Andy then asked Marlo, can she do a quick rating of what all the ladies are wearing to the reunion? She does, and then Kenya says, I know she ain't talking, looking like Miss Roper from Three's Company. Now that joke landed with Andy white ass, but that was probably funny to somebody in Gen X, but if you're a millennial or Gen Z, you'd probably be scratching your head. So the next reel is now dedicated to the videos that was recorded by Monyetta and Marlo. Marlo's video that she sent to LaToya, and then Monyetta's video where Courtney is allegedly referring to Drew as a bitch. Monyetta's giving her side, and I don't really care to hear her speak, but she's just defending how what she did wasn't as messy as what Marlo did. Which I agree, but your video still incited mess between the ladies. Also, side note, Sonya is talking during this reunion. She's present. In the previews I thought otherwise, but she's speaking up. So now Courtney changes her story again about the bitch comment. She's saying that she was actually imitating Drew, how she was talking to LaToya. Girl, you need to pick a story and stick with it. What you should have stuck to was that you didn't mean the word bitch in the connotation that Drew took it. So now we get to Kandi and what she thought of Courtney calling her ghetto to Sonya and Sheree. I feel like they talked about this already. Or maybe that was just in the preview that I saw. Anywho, Kandi said that she side-eyed Sonya because she didn't give her the full truth. Like, at least just say you laughed a bit. But then Sonya tells Kandi that she's just going by the precedents that she set because I think she was laughing in regards to what Drew did to her last season. I don't really care that much, so we can move on. Oh, we then get to Marlo slamming the door in Monyetta's face. Again, I don't care about that either. That was dumb. Fast forward. They're talking about the videos again, and now Andy's asking Drew why was she so offended about the bitch comment, especially because all she said was, this bitch questioned me. Drew says she felt like she didn't do anything to warrant that type of behavior from Courtney, but again, it's not like Courtney called her see you next Tuesday. I feel like Kenya and maybe some of the other ladies on that side of the couch wanted a divide between Drew and Courtney. We got a split screen because they're going back and forth now, and Courtney's calling Drew a chronic liar. Drew then calls her the unverifiable cousin. I think she's sticking to that read too, the unverifiable. I guess, girl. But then Courtney said the reason why she just admitted to calling Drew a bitch because she was getting on her nerves at the time. Wait, Andy, why are you now asking Kenya about Birmingham when we're talking about the two videos? Did they splice this or something? Did y'all think that was weird for him to go back to Birmingham? Kenya's now talking about her salon, and you know I don't care. She said she's building a second level in it. That's why it's closed now. I think there was some big thing that happened on Twitter, like a Bravo fan went by her building and was saying that it wasn't really open. And turns out, you know, Kenya was right, and she was justified that it was closed because she was adding a second level. So now we're moving on to the finale, and he's asking Monyetta about, I guess, the movie shoot where Drew was getting cozy with Ty. And Drew admits that she was making comments, but she says it was all in jest. Okay. So then Andy asks Courtney about her conversations with Ralph, which I still don't know why is she talking to Ralph. Like, she just met them as a couple. So now you're talking to Ralph separately? The mistress rumors might be true because that sounds like they've been having pillow talk. Andy turns to Drew and says, is there any truth to what Ralph has been telling Courtney? So you mean to tell me it was a scheme set up by Ralph to bring us the bullshit? Drew then starts to get gully with Courtney and says, don't you ever bring up my son, ever. Ha. She's acting. That's for the Drag Race fans, y'all. Drew's like, keep my son's name out your fucking mouth. Now, like I said in my last video, Courtney's statement definitely warranted an ass whipping from Drew. I wouldn't blame Drew at all if she put hands on Courtney. They're going back and forth. Courtney's like, or what? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Courtney then lies and says, I didn't bring up your child. And Andy then jumps in and says, well, you did. You did. The credits are rolling now. Drew's still going off. Don't you ever think you can talk about my child, bitch. You're unverifiable. And scene. That is where the episode ends, y'all. Not a bad part one. I was laughing. Like, if I had to give it a letter grade, it would be a B. Like, I actually laughed a few times. I was surprised by how ready for the reunion Sheree was. Normally, she flops. I'm kind of surprised at how Kenya kind of flopped with this subpoena she gave Marlo, because that could have been a gag-worthy moment. We then get a preview of part 2, which looks good, and they bring Ralph out. Him and Drew are going to be going back and forth. She also runs off the stage. And also I want to know what Andy thought was the most shadiest evidence that was ever brought to Housewives. I'm thinking it was the text messages between Ty and Drew, but we'll see. I would love to know what y'all thought about part 1. Let me know whose side y'all on. With that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see y'all for the next episode. Bye.